third episode of the subject matter of the cult. Now, on episode number 1, I highlighted the dangers of the Waname title that we've heard from Sangomas and a lot of people from ZCC. Then we took it from there, and then we went to talking about removing God. And on episode number 2, and I showed how pastors, prophets, apostles were doing that. The episode number 3, which is this one, I want to talk about the unknown God. Now, if you look and you follow through, if on the last episode we talk about pastors removing God, it only makes sense for us to come to talking about the unknown God. Because since now we have the prophets who have removed God, which God then? When an album came out of Kaya, I spoke about how the album was strangely without too much reference of who it was talking about. You guys will remember that. People thought I was just hating. This is the reason. Now on this one, I want to use the song of Young Stunna. Young Stunna recently had a song, Imithandazo, and this particular song comes before me because one of you guys sent me a version of it that was being sung in church. And said, Ricky, did you see they're singing Young Stunna's song, Imithandazo? So I didn't even know the song. So I had to listen to the song online. And then I was like, oh, like sometimes you hear songs playing outside. And so I was like, oh, that's the song that I heard on thingy. Sounds very entertaining for a song. But when you watch the music video, you then have questions about it. You have questions about the motives or the goal that is being spoken about, or the God being spoken about in the song. Imithandazo iyakuphi. And so if you go back to the cult message of Freemasonry, they speak about a multiple God, or known as the mystery religions. The mystery religion subject comes in from Masonry. We know it from the Bible, of course, we know it from Revelations, but Freemasonry then takes on that and then has this different religions in the same hub. You guys would remember when the entire building that got built in Dubai, housing 3 major Abrahamic religions in their thingy, the Christian faith, the Judaism and Islam. I spoke about this particular thing, the mixture of gods. Now, in this particular topic, I want to show you, in that video we spoke about them removing. On this video, I want to now, since now they've removed, who is this God then that they are worshiping? In this title or in this video, that's what I want to show. The unknown God. Now, this song elaborates it how. In the song, Imithandazo with Kabza, The Small, and Young Stunna, and many other artists, there's a moment where, the camera pans, I don't know if it was camera error, you can see kind of like a figure standing on the side. It was just kind of like quite an interesting image, looked kind of like a bit, dodgy man type of stuff. It looked, he's this angelic being, and then you have this being on the side of this thing that just looks very ominous. It looks very kind of like diabolic, like what was going on, but it might just be a person, one of the crew's members and stuff like that. But I found quite interesting that image actually made it into the cut. Now, Young Stunna himself wears a goat head figure, kind of like a Baphomet on his chain. His chain is a chain of a Baphomet figure on it with that goat head and everything. And so quite an interesting one, that a person singing about Imithandazo is a person who has a goat head figure on him. Okay, now he's also an ispandla holder, like the whole Nile jazz. Some people might just say, no, it's just culture, but there is a lot of things that come with that entire ispandla thing. Now, they go on to sing in church in the music video. When they go to sing in the church, he replaces his clothes of ordinary life to those of divinity, white clothes. So he's prayed for, they holding the Bible while they do this, and then they remove a thingy, and then he dresses himself. Now, what I found quite interesting is that the people that are giving him the clothes, one dress black, one dress white. I thought that was quite an interesting one, thinking about the subject matter of the yin and the yang. But that might have not been the intention, okay? And so I just thought that was interesting, that black and white, yin and the yang. And then we are talking about that figure core on the side. But anyways, not the subject matter. The matter is the song. So the song is speaking about this aspect of God hearing our prayers. And so he's Imithandazo yetu, our prayers are going up, and he saves. But not even once do you hear who is this one who saves in the video. And so I thought, wow, interesting that there is someone that's saving clearly in the song, but we don't find out who is this one who is saving. And then the person who's singing this wears a Baphomet goat head, which is kind of sus. It's kind of questionable and very weird. But then Kabza the Small burns in purple in there. And then I thought that was quite an interesting one, that there's a mixture of religion and this African spirituality while we are speaking about forgiveness at one point of the song, and then he hears our prayers. Who? Because he isn't spoken of. There isn't a name tagged along this particular he that saves. But if you go into the book of Acts chapter number 17, verse number 23, it is very clear. Paul walked into a temple and he found an inscription written to the unknown God. The idea of people worshiping an unknown God is not new. This is what we are hearing. That's why you have your celebrities speak about God, but then they go and completely dismiss the Bible. It's because they are worshiping an unknown God. And this particular idea of worshiping an unknown God, if you go to John, the interaction with Jesus and the Samaritan woman, you will remember that the Samaritan woman seems to have a belief system where they worship at the heights, they worship at the mountains. You know, quite an interesting one. They are worshiping at the water. But anyways, so they worship at the heights, and she says, you know, our fathers worship in the mountain, and you Jews say that it is in Jerusalem we ought to worship. And Jesus says, neither of you are in the right. God seeks them that worship him in truth and in spirit. And so it's not in this we are thankful to God stuff where you're doing it by lip service. It is them that worship him in truth and in spirit. And we explained that yesterday on the live stream. Worshiping God in truth and in spirit means one who is saved, born again. So there isn't a worship that can be offered outside of the born again experience. The verse then goes on to say, you worship what you know not. So that part there shows you there is such a thing as people that are worshiping an unknown God. They worship gods of fortresses. They worship gods of foreign origins. They worship gods of distant lands. By distant lands, we mean gods that they themselves cannot explain. And so this is what I wanted to tackle here. On the previous episode, we spoke about them removing God. But I wanted to show that there are people that are worshiping a God that they don't know. This is where also in churches you find the God of my father. He has no name. He's the God of my father, but he has no name. Why? No, because you then say Jesus. No, but it ends there at God of so-and-so. God of so-and-so. You never state the name because it is an unknown God. That is mystery religion of the Freemason. That's the mystery religion of the Illuminati. Worshipping an unknown God. This is why I loved Asumpumi when she came out in house music, and some of the most popular songs that were by that period, Asumpumi songs, were very Christian. Her songs were direct. I call you Somandla. Her songs were very clear. Yahweh, she had a song called Yahweh, Very popular. It's straightforward. It tells you who it's talking about. It's not an unknown God. It's not a God that can't be spoken about, a God that we just hear, he does this, he does this. Who is he? Which one are you talking about? Because there is such a thing as the unknown God. It is a very strange one, but it's not new. If you read Acts chapter number 17 there, it becomes very clear. This is common practice with humankind. To worship a God that is unknown. A God that is distant from the one that we know. This is what's happening right now. This particular God, like I stated, they want to do this, okay? Now by they, I don't mean individuals, like people are sitting there planning. No, the spirits, the beings that are trying to move for this movement of thinking, their intention is to create a secret church. And that secret church replaces the main church. That's why we are talking about it here. That's why this series is very important. So I wanted to talk about it here. It's quite an interesting one. Why do you think they present burning of incense and then talk about the one who saves? Where is there salvation in our ancestral practices? There's no salvation. There is no salvation in our ancestral practices. So which one are they talking about when they say he washes away our sin? And then they're in church bowing down, replacing clothes and all those kind of things. Which one is that? That is the unknown God. They can talk about boldly, but they will never fully acknowledge who he is, because that's the mystery religion. That's the goal of the Antichrist, to have us speak of a God that is without name. The Bible says the name of the Lord is a tower. It's the name that is the tower, to whom the righteous run to. Now here, which one are you going to? No, whichever one you are worshiping. Because he is God, it's just God. Just that's why they like to say, Christians like to claim God for themselves. No, we are not claiming God. We are saying that God has given himself a name. And so if you are speaking about the God we know, this is his name. Why do they do that? Now you understand where I was coming at from that video which I made. I know it was like a year or two back when I made that video about Kaya. I said, I have an issue with a God that I don't know. It doesn't even address. It's the unknown God. It's a very dangerous title. I'm not saying that that's what he was doing, but I want us to understand the goal and the agenda that's going down here. Okay? People speak about God. Little do you know. No title. And then you see them practice funny things. And then you ask yourself, which God was he talking about? He never told you, because that God, it's a universal God.